Hello, UCR. What's your favorite scary movie?
The phone is ringing, and that can only mean one thing. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, gargoyles and ghouls, and all those creepy things out there, for Uncensored Horror. Welcome back, everyone. All four of us are here today. I am Steve. We have the lovely Katie McCarthy next to me. We have Brooke Blomey, and diagonally to me, we have the lovely Luke. We are all gathered round, party line style. There you go. That's a bit 90s reference for everyone. Get on the party line. We thought, hey, you know what? It might be time to discuss a recent movie, one that maybe has just come out. So it is our pleasure today to be doing something very, very new. Today we will be discussing the new Blumhouse film, The Black Phone, starring one Mr. Ethan Hawke. Now, there is only a couple of ways we could have seen this, so we can't really go around and go, hey, how did you see this? I know, Katie, you went to the cinemas to see it, didn't you?
I did, and I was really excited about it because I don't get to go out much.
Oh, poor Katie.
She got to get dressed up for the night.
Who said I got dressed up?
She went in the mum sweats.
She put on her good sweatpants.
Excuse me, I put on my
Fancy
Bloody
ones.
Valentine shirt and my shorts, and I went out and I had a good time. I went with my friend. We got dinner beforehand, and he was a little hesitant about this movie. He had heard some mixed reviews about it, but he came out a believer. We both really enjoyed the movie, so I'm really excited to talk about this. I've been really looking forward to seeing this. Been really looking forward to you guys watching this. I've been like, guys, did you see it yet? I want to talk about it.
So, The Black Phone, for those of us that have not seen it, is a supernatural horror film brought to us by Blumhouse, and it is based on a short story by one Mr. Joe Hill. Now, who doesn't know the name Joe Hill?
Loser.
Everyone knows
loser.
No one knows who Joe Hill is?
Oh, I know who Joe Hill is. Those losers
No?
don't.
Well,
So
sorry.
Joe Hill,
Can you tell us?
Stephen King's son.
Oh,
Oh,
Joe
okay.
Hill is the son of.
then why
is the
isn't his
son of
name
Stephen
Joe King?
Because he didn't want to ride on Daddy's coattails.
And who wants to be called Joe King?
Oh, that's funny. You made it
So,
funny.
The film stars a lot of unknowns, actually. Ethan Hawke is the big name here. Big surprise with Blumhouse that Ethan Hawke is the big name. But a short synopsis for a short story. The film is about 1970s. A young teenage boy who is abducted, and a mysterious telephone is used to communicate with previous victims of his kidnapper and help him escape. And that's the spoiler-free synopsis. So before we get started, as always, we will be spoiling the shit out of The Black Phone. So if you have not seen it or have not watched the trailer, go away, come back, and then talk to us. Yeah, talk to us when you've seen the movie. So let's begin. We're gonna try and not spoil it heaps because it is a new movie, and a lot of people may not have had the chance to see it.
I mean, these are not total unknowns. I mean, if you've watched Sinister, you've seen a ton of these people before.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, but they're not Jamie Lee Curtis, is what I'm saying. if we're talking recent Blumhouse turnouts, but let's talk about
Fair
that
enough.
to start with. Have we noticed the new Blumhouse intro?
Yes, and you know,
Who it
I thought that
starts
was
with?
yeah. And I liked it, but I didn't like it. I'm like, really, guys? That's what you're gonna go with?
They're very
Like,
much they're very much going, hey, we own horror at the moment. We start outside in the woods with Michael Myers, and we go inside the house and we see the mask from the purge and da 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 da. It's indicative of part of the problem that I think I have with this movie, but we'll talk about that at the end. But I've got to say, these two lead child actors, I was down with in a big way. Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw play
very much
brother and
into
sister.
them.
Yeah,
Very good.
great actors. They have a very quite dysfunctional growing up with an alcoholic father. It's a Stephen King-esque story, so of course there's an alcoholic father and a dead parent.
Everyone's an alcoholic in the 80s, though, aren't they, anyway?
Well, it was the 70s,
70s,
so, but
baby.
close.
70s, whatever. Well, were we
Close.
getting a very, like, Stranger Things vibe from the...
Again, Stranger Things was the 80s, but go on.
I know that, sweetie, but we're getting that whole retro feel, like they're trying to really give us that, like, that wholesome nostalgia that they want to bring and then put something horrific into it.
I don't even necessarily think it's a wholesome thing. I
got
it
nothing
is
wholesome out of this.
more a setting of time and place and a suggestion that the lives of children in the late 70s weren't necessarily that well regarded. It was the 80s before we got the it's 10 p.m. at night, do you know where your children are kind of thing. Kids had a very free roam still at this point. They were allowed to just disappear for the day and then turn back up at night. And I think this is one of those movies that does, and I like this thing when they bring horror into suburbia, so you don't know if you turn around the street, the grabber could be around the corner.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't exactly suburbia because it was Denver. It's a city. So, like, it's suburbia, but it's not suburbia, because, like, it's small enough where it's, like, it's this, like, nice little idyllic neighborhood. However, it's big enough where you think it's Denver. It's a city. So, like, the things that are happening here are not all that unusual because it's a big city.
And it's very transitionary time in history as well, where that wall between city and suburbia was breaking down, and the horrible stuff that was happening in big cities was bleeding its way out into the suburbs.
Wholesome neighborhoods.
You've got to think, like, this is peak serial killer time as well, right? Horror was around the corner. It wasn't necessarily in big scary New York City or anywhere else. It could be your neighbor. If Halloween did anything, it brought the scary around the corner to that house that everyone's frightened of. And I like that sense of it more than Stranger Things. This gave me a big It vibe.
Yes. Yeah, I got that too, but you've also unlocked a fun fact because the baddie in this was based off of real life serial killers. 3 of them, actually. Bundy, Gacy, and Dahmer. And I think you will...
I knew this.
Well, when you meet him, you'll kind of understand where they're getting them, right? Because let's meet them first, and then we can discuss, like, where you're finding these serial killer personality traits, right? Because I picked up on it pretty quickly.
Yes. Anyone who's done the serial killer 101 can pick up on, who's meant to be who, and then as the movie unfolds, you go, oh, okay, cool. I like, again, it's a Stephen King / Joe Hill universe. There's got to be a psychic child. She doesn't play it ooky spooky. You know how usually the psychic kids are the one in the corner going, I see dead people, or,
Part of that being, though, because of how her father treats her about it, because obviously he's got some stuff going on and some trauma going on with the mother, hence Glug Glug, and he was quite brutal with her about her visions, and so she wanted to suppress them. She didn't even want people to know that she had them.
Yeah, but I think that if it was going to be an atypical, teen-based, this isn't I don't think this is aimed at teenagers.
She wasn't Tina Shepherd in Friday
if it was
7.
if it was a teenage based, movie, this kid would be the one all in black sitting in the corner going, "Oh, I'm frightening." This was just an everyday girl who happened to have dreams, and those dreams have turned out to be real. Like her mother, as it suggested, her mother had psychic visions before she killed herself. That was a bit dramatic, but
And
even at the beginning, we start with a baseball game. How all American and kids baseball and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that we get the idea, especially at the beginning, before we meet the grabber, of looming danger. Like we don't see these kids get taken. We see the minute, the literally the split second before that.
You know what I thought?
It fades to black. That was
like,
cool.
I thought, watching the baseball scene between Bruce and Finney, I thought Bruce was going to be some mean bully, and he's just this, it's just friendly competition, and they're shaking hands at the end, and it's like, oh, that didn't play out any which way that I thought it was going to play out. And it's important. Their relationship is important in the movie, so hang on.
And I think all of those relationships in the movie are very interesting because it is very indicative of your universe as a kid. You know what I mean? You grow up with these people, but you might not know of it, but so-and-so kicked so-and-so's ass and this person's scary because of this. You might not have seen it. It kind of, this microcosm of childhood, which is really quite interesting. And something I wish they would have spent a bit more time on. But again, that's my problem with it. So we have kids disappearing is the main thing. There are children disappearing left, right, and center. There's a rumor of, I guess, we don't know that he's a killer straight away. We know that there are kids being taken by someone called the Grabber.
Shh,
the Grabber.
Don't say it.
Don't say his name.
I wish there was a bit more
Steve.
of that. I wish there was a bit more of that as well. Like, I want to feel that. I want to feel that tension a bit more. Than it's just like. Anyway, it's just down to filmmaking questions and and script questions. But these kids, start to disappear, and we get the idea that Finney is not necessarily the bravest kid in the world, not necessarily the kid that stands up for himself or the most confident kid. He gets scared very easily watching horror movies. He gets his ass kicked regularly until that kid. What was that kid's name? Ralph Macchio headband.
Give me a second.
He deserves quite a lot of praise for the fight scene. That fight scene was impressive.
That kid. My God, he took on that kid must have been like twice his size, right?
But that looked like a real fight, is what I'm saying. Like, for a child to be able to get that kind of reality out of it, like the kicks looked like they landed, the punches looked like they landed. It was like, Jesus Christ, this kid is savage.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
This kid was a savage and very, very much like the Ralph Macchio kind of. If Ralph was a bad kid back in the day,
Robin.
Well, if you watch Cobra Kai, there's argument lending to that he wasn't quite the goody boy in the Karate Kid, and that he was, it was all quite a grey area, and that both of them were villains and heroes.
Well,
interlocking.
From the brief kind of history that you got from Robin, he was kind of sick of getting his ass kicked and learned how to kick some ass.
Right. And Robin could kick some ass, like the choke hold, which comes back later, which was amazing. Like,
just that scene in the bathroom, just washing off his knuckles,
washing off and then taping.
They just keep bleeding.
You're a badass. That kid's a badass. Like, and it was again that mutual kid relationship. They're not like best friends, but he helps me with my homework and not getting in trouble, so I'm going to look after this kid. And
right?
I really liked that sense of childhood, which is very hard to capture, I think, sometimes for people. that aren't necessarily kids.
Well,
I think
didn't you
because it was 1978, it was closer to our childhoods than the original It or something like that. It wasn't that far off.
didn't you have like a mutually beneficial relationship kind of person like that? Like they helped you with this, so you help them
exactly.
with that.
they're not your and they're not your best friend, and you're not going to hang out with them. But
they're your ally. They're your ally.
You've got an ally. And it's cute.
Yeah.
It's a cute moment.
Yeah.
So with these children disappearing, I think this was a weird flex to start with. The police go straight to Finn's sister.
Like, ugh.
I love Gwenny so much. She's got
This
that.
is my favorite.
Gwenny's got some big dick energy. Okay.
Gwenny, yeah.
I love
Gwenny,
her
I think
so
this
much.
kid gets MVP for this movie.
Seriously.
I hope she does a lot
has
more
to.
stuff.
You dumb fox.
Yeah.
Like,
What
shut
did
the
you
fuck
say?
up.
And she
Like,
went in
minutes
swinging
you
too.
came.
Like,
What, you think
Yeah.
I'm the grabber?
Yeah,
I'm the
she's-
grabber, you dumb fucking fart knockers.
There we go. Fart
fucking
knockers.
love
I knew it was
that.
something.
Oh.
Fart knockers.
That is an insult that I think Uncensored Radio, Uncensored Horror just needs to bring back. Fart
We're going
knockers.
to be a fart
Are
knocker.
we going to bring it
Which-
back? I think
Fart knocker's not. I've never heard fart knocker before this movie.
is this a
so-
very American? Oh, it's a very
Obviously.
American
I
insult.
think
Okay,
it's an
so
American thing.
then
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce it to you, Australians. Fart knocker. Here you
Fart
go.
knocker.
Fart
I
knocker.
love it.
My gift
It
to you.
sounds Australian. It sounds more
so
Australian,
what does
doesn't
the
it?
fart knocker mean?
I have no idea. I never know.
Well, wouldn't fart knocker suggest some kind of homosexual connotation?
I'd say so, like some little
You're a
like
fart knocker.
bum hanging
Am I looking-
around
All right.
bums.
All
You
right,
bum
I'm looking-
bandit.
all right.
I just loved the delivery on it. Like, I'm the grabber, you dumb fucking fart knockers. I didn't see it coming.
And the principal's
My
like,
favorite
"When?"
part.
The
Oh,
principal was like
Gwendolyn!
mortified.
You nailed it. It is a homosexual. Yeah.
There we go.
Slang for
I know hate
proposing
speech when I
anal.
hear it. But you get the and again, this is where the writing is good and it works, and I think this is probably maybe even taken directly from the book. I haven't read the short story because it was only a short story. This one is very important to stress, but you get the idea that this principal is used to this kid being a fucking loose unit and just going saying random shit and just like, oh god, this kid needs to be silenced. And she does get really like she gets silenced at home for sure. That was
Oh,
not something you see in
that was
movies
brutal.
a lot anymore.
That was brutal.
Yeah,
But it was I watched that part twice just because it sounds brutal. You don't see it, but it sounds brutal, and that's the power of suggestion. I think again, people that have grown up in that era or near that era in the late 70s, early 80s, we know that this used to happen to kids regularly. They get flogged and they get sent to school and be like, oh, okay. So there's that sense of familiarity, I guess. I don't know. It never happened to me, but you know, you always went to school with a kid that was like, oh god, you poor bastard.
Mm-hmm.
And James Ransom and that actress, I keep forgetting her name. What is her name? Is it Maisie?
Her, like the actress's
Madeline.
name or the
Madeline
McGraw.
Yeah, they act well together. The father daughter. I believe that relationship they're quite intense together.
But didn't you
So
just want to hate him though? Like that scene makes me so angry.
That's the point, really, isn't it? Like when we're supposed to get Dad's not a good guy. Dad can't help. Again, it's the Stephen King universe. Parents are useless if they're even in the picture at all. They are hopeless. They can't save the kids, and that's, I guess, the point of the story is we have to grow up eventually and save ourselves. You can't rely on your parents or your friends or your classmates to save you. You have to save yourself in this life and, fight for yourself. God, I'm deep today.
I was like,
Jeez.
Steve, are you okay?
The
Went a
film
little
studies
deep
major
there,
is
mate.
coming out.
Whoa.
So this is the world that little Finny's living in. You know, it's not necessarily the happiest world in his life, but he's getting along. And then Robin goes missing as well, and shit like really hits the fan for Finny. Gets his ass kicked severely.
That's an understatement.
This
But
is
who
one of my
and-
favorites.
But wait a minute,
too.
who comes to his rescue?
I know.
Love.
No, Gwen.
She is. Gwen's
She's
fucking
Buffy the
wild.
Vampire Slayer 1978.
She's rough, but again, you see that kid code. That fight happens when you're too injured. You sit out.
Yep.
I love that
Old
she was
mate
like,
with the old mate with the pissing head because he's bleeding to death.
Oh God,
Gwen
she took a
sits there
fucking
next to
rock
himself.
to his head.
That was
She
fucking
wasn't-
rough too.
She wasn't fucking around.
Yeah, Gwen's the little sister
I-
everyone wants. I think
She's scrappy as hell.
she is.
like I feel like I was.
Did you guys
Gwen.
ever have childhood fights in the neighborhood like that though? Because I remember growing up, we did. There was people that would like, because we had a BMX track, so this was the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, and all the kids in the neighborhood took ownership of it. And so the whole neighborhood decided the way we'll decide who actually owns the BMX track is we're going to have this battle royale of everyone versus everyone. And it was pretty hectic. I got my arm dislocated by one of the girls. I lost.
Yes.
No,
Yeah, I got
Girl
a little-
power.
I got a little scrappy
bitch.
once in a while.
But it's part of it's part of childhood. This is the stuff that happens when you're not at home, when your parents can't protect you.
Mm-hmm.
This is the shit that you got to go through as a kid to, earn your stripes and get bold. But when Finny's at his down point is when a mysterious man steps out from behind a black van from Abracadabra Magic Supplies, and we meet Ethan Hawke's The Grabber.
Oh God! Like,
Now let's talk about Ethan in this movie.
can we please? Because how is that not suspicious?
Right? I know.
Like, okay, so there's someone going around the neighborhood grabbing kids, right? Like,
Yes.
to the point that they've actually nicknamed them the Grabber.
right? Like, that's my first suspect right there. Like, I'm going to be real honest with you. Like, okay, that guy's really
And the whole
strange
van thing
The-
is
the van
very,
thing.
is very like, which is very serial killer. But I remember when I was a kid, there was always like stories, and we actually got followed by a van once on our way home.
Mhm.
There's always this
Oh.
fear of being snatched off the street, and except around our way it was a white van, not a black van.
Well, that's the story, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and Ethan Hawke here's got big Ted Bundy energy, man. He's charismatic. He's friendly.
But also,
he's-
also big Johnny Depp, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory energy.
He
Oh, that
really did.
voice?
I thought the same
That
thing.
I was like, oh.
oh,
I
that
was like,
voice was
"That's
killing me. That
creepy."
voice was killing me. I hated it.
So yeah, he grabs Finny, but Finny gets his own back with that rocket ship. It's a pen, right?
It's
Is it
a
a pen?
pen and a torch.
Is it a pen? I thought it
A
was
pen
just a
and
toy.
a torch.
I,
Or
no,
a
I
thought it
thought
was
it was
just
a pen and a torch.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just a toy.
Anyway, he carves into the grabber. He's the first, as we find out, he's the first person that manages to get the grab on the grabber. What is he spraying down his throat?
I'm just gonna guess it's probably a sedative because it knocks him out,
interesting.
right?
And then he's thrown into the back of the van. The balloons that Finny was interested in are released, and then he's taken. He disappears. Now, for me, I think we took a lot of time to get to this point, but I would have liked. Okay, this is just me. I don't know if the balloons were such a thing that they played into it a little bit more. Like we saw when the first kid went missing, we saw Finn's toy rocket go up. But it would have been cooler if in the background we saw, after he left, after he was gone, we saw balloons, or you saw balloons in the power lines, or something that's a little bit more suggestive that this person is around all the time.
Well,
Might
and
just be me.
speaking of the balloons, like if the balloons are like your big holdback, why aren't you monitoring like who's buying all these black balloons?
But that's the thing. He works at the magic supply store. There's balloons there.
I don't care. Like I don't
He
care if
doesn't-
you're I don't care if you're a magician. If you're buying all those goddamn black balloons, I'm following you around. Like magician or not, fucker. That's sketchy. Watching you.
Oh my
I am
god, sorry, I'm
watching you.
dying.
You
I'm
are
dying,
okay,
yeah.
but like
Sneezing.
I'm like,
you're
bless
you
you,
know
my
you're
son.
you've got you know you got the big
going
old,
to town.
you got the
Going
big
to town on
van.
myself.
You're buying black balloons. You look suspicious. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
going to put a tail on you for a little bit, at least for a little
Right.
bit. Just
Hmm.
okay.
But we see, Finny is well and truly fucked when
Well and truly.
when he is thrown into a basement, a very sparse basement, by a masked man.
What do
that
we think
holds
of the
little
mask?
else. That holds little else than a mattress, a toilet, and of course,
A black phone.
a black phone that doesn't work.
Ooh.
Hasn't
that-
worked since I was a child. Says Ethan Hawke's The Grabber. Hasn't worked since I was a child. Interesting. We will talk about that later as well. Now, as Katie said, let's talk about these masks. Very effective. Very creepy.
And the masterwork of Mr. Tom Savini.
Yeah, I was about to say, looks. I like the interchangeable personality of it. That and reflexive of different mental states.
In my mind, he was the only one that could pull that off, but I'm a fangirl, so I guess I'm a little biased.
Yes.
Well, it was so creepy when he first grabbed Finny, and he said, like he used that thing, like he's like, "Oh no, I would never hurt you" and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my god, look, this guy is full crazy."
Oh no, no. The words he used were, "I wouldn't do anything to you that you wouldn't like."
Yes, and I wanted to. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
as well.
it's awful. It's very awful, and because work with kids, parents, we all feel it. It's like, oh God, like, oh, it's terrible.
Anyway, I'll hold it back till later. Yeah, so
Like, hold it in, Steve. Hold it in.
Finny's fucked, basically. Let's be honest.
Until
Until the phone
choice of words.
starts ringing. Now, I feel like they kind of gave this premise away way too early in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a case of the trailer showing too much. Again, but we hear voices. What I did like about the voices and the ghosts was that they are in that state of, I guess, limbo-y kind of, where they're forgetting who they were in the real world. So they were slowly losing their identity, but what they remembered was the trauma that happened to them, so they could help this kid get out of whatever happened.
That kind of makes me so sad that like they don't remember who they are. They remember very small details of themselves, but they're all, like you said, they're trauma bonded.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's sad, like the details they remember is the trauma, which is awful. And then,
but again, and this is probably a good conversation for Brooke and I to lead. There's, depending on what you believe about hauntings, it might not necessarily be their soul, but it's a manifestation of their trauma that that's the one thing that they are remembering until it's resolved. So we don't know that
Yeah.
at the end of this, these kids go elsewhere. You know what I mean?
And if you look at the premise of it as well, so Finney actually helps most of them remember who they were, which is a really, to borrow a phrase from Steve, cute moment. But, you know, how do you know that they're them helping him sort that out is not what brings them all back, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't. I'm sorry.
A good point. No, but a good point. You just made a good point as well. Of course, the adults aren't going to remember these kids. They're being forgotten. The kids remember these kids because they are one of them. He knows these kids, even if he never met these, like if he didn't speak to these kids, he knows each and every one of these kids' names and what they did because they were of his world and of his universe and of his experience. So we see the mind games a little bit of what the grabber wants to do and how it's played out for the other kids in his dungeon.
Soundproofed it himself.
Yes, soundproofed it himself. I feel like they kind of dropped the ball a little bit with giving us a bit. Like, I get that we weren't supposed to know a lot, but I don't know if there was enough information about the grabber, and especially his brother. The brother seems really shoehorned in.
Oh, Detective So-So?
Like, I was like, oh, okay. It's like, yep, radio. Like, he's not anywhere in the story until that point, and then he's not anywhere in the story after that point until the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like that was a bit.
Yeah. If that guy was amateur detective, he would be a suspect. You know, like that's the idea that, especially of serial killers, that they get themselves involved in the investigation. They stay close. So why wasn't he the one walking around handing out pamphlets or something like? Just put him in the background. Give him something to do so he's not just a random chunk of a plot point to get us to X, Y,
and I think he was utilised as that false flag of the Finney's going to be rescued suddenly, and like it gives the audience that little bit of hope, and that's all he was reduced to. When it could have been fleshed out a lot better.
But Gwenny's on the case. Gwenny's mystery machine. She's the one. She's Mystery Inc. in one person. She's got it. She's leading the investigation by herself. She has a very unique relationship with Jesus. Let's put it that way.
I love, fuck you, Jesus.
Yeah, and I love before Finney disappeared, like he's asking her to like do her thing, and she just cracks open the dollhouse and pulls out all her like paraphernalia, and she's just like, "Yo, Jesus, do your thing, do your thing."
And we get that it is habitual, ritualistic for her. She knows what she has to do to tap into this kind of moment, and she's not afraid of it either.
Yeah,
which is something you don't see a lot in cinema. You don't see people that have this gift, for want of a better word, not be terrified of it.
Right.
She had such a determination. She was absolutely determined to get him back, and she was going to stop at nothing to do it. And I love that that tenacity that they gave her.
I feel like they underutilized her and her dreams, because some of the dreams were really helpful, and then some of them were like nothing,
misleading, or not clear.
Because Bruce is like, the dream about Bruce was just like his family, and there wasn't really a whole lot there, and it was just kind of sad and made you kind of like bummed out.
I think that was the point. Is that we were still trying to poke the heartstrings there.
But then you get further into those dreams, and they start to become more helpful.
Well, there's a clearer purpose. There's urgency. There's
Yeah.
there's that kind of more pointedness to it, and the ghosts are also they get more pointed as well. The ghosts, we find out that the point of the calls, those ghosts are lingering to help the next victim and help the victim after that, and they're all giving Finn the tools he needs in the end to get away, because there is obviously a very set out pattern to what the grabber does with each of these kids, and he is learning from their
But did you
mistakes.
feel like Finn was obviously meant to have a gift like his sister too? And that's why that's what I got from it. That's why he could get the calls.
Possibly.
I don't think so. I think that would have happened to any kid. I think it could have been any kid that got down there. I don't think.
It's interesting because, and again, this is a theory that I've read, is that the ghosts weren't real at all. That it was just his mind dealing with
the trauma of being
down there, which would also speak a little bit to why the phone hasn't rang for the grabber since he was a child.
But one of them says he can hear it. He just doesn't acknowledge it.
So it's interesting. It's good that it's interesting that a text can be read in that different way. But the commonality that they've all suffered through is that there is this sense of captivity, and then he plays with them. He plays again a quite questionable game of naughty boy.
Why am I so into this?
I think it's his expression.
No, something must have happened in my childhood that made me
you got
some
unresolved dilf issues or something, maybe.
I don't know, but like that scene came on, and I looked at my friend and I said, "Why am I so attracted to that right now? What is wrong with me? Why do I want to play naughty boy?"
We get the idea that you shouldn't play naughty boy.
Just lay down on his lap and I'll play.
Oh,
run, Finny! I'll distract him.
Katie will take care of this one for you. I don't think he was interested in you, Katie. That's the point.
Yeah.
He didn't play naughty girl. He played naughty boy.
I'm like, enter the Mr. Dharma reference.
Seems to be my life story. Always falling for the ones that aren't into me. Anyways,
so this point of action kind of really gets going. We see Finn create his arsenal, create his plan out his escape route, all that kind of thing. It all pieces together with Gwenny doing the same thing. And these kids are meant to be together. They're meant to save each other, or heavy-handed metaphor, like save each other from their childhood. This final moment, the red herring moment, was very interesting. When she saw the house, she knows where the house is. She knows the address. She's seen the number. She's riding through that. This kid is a one-woman machine of justice in this small town, and she calls the police, and they come.
Did you catch the Stephen King reference in that scene?
I didn't. What happened?
Her raincoat.
Was it a bit of a Derry moment?
It was Georgie.
She belongs in Derry with Georgie.
She belonged to Georgie with that one. Yep.
She floats.
She floats.
She floats.
She floats.
But yeah, interesting that this happened. Empty house,
Oh my God.
This is when the grabber's brother finally clicks on, that my creepy brother who does not let me down in the basement.
You'll never believe how I discovered you were down here. I'm all coked out, but anyways.
Exactly. And then we get this moment made me go, oh!
Yeah, me too.
You made me kill my brother. I was like, oh, okay. You made me kill my brother.
Just a little gaslighting there, buddy?
Just a little bit, Why don't we blame that victim? But it is fucking on this was intense as well. This scene with the dog, and he just went into action. Raise the phone, step back, step forward, step back, swing, and you notice the times that he didn't, the times that he got captured by the grabber was when he was not doing what he was told.
Yeah.
Yeah, like following all of those instructions. Falling onto that, Ethan's little ankle / foot getting all
that
mangled.
crunch.
I was like, I
But, was not okay.
He did deserve it, let's be honest.
He deserved it all.
He deserved everything he got. Getting smacked out with that phone. The chokehold was amazing.
I just loved all the kids getting their, getting to say their final say to him.
I love. The best part was, it's for you.
It's for you.
And then he got to hear, and those kids got their plans worked in the end. Their trauma worked. They got there because they also stopped Gwenny at the right place.
And I know we kind of glossed over a lot of their stories, but it really would have ruined a lot of this movie for you guys. And we're spoiling this, but we don't want to spoil.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil too much. We want you to still have a bit of mystery. But I could have gone with more story.
I could have gone with a lot more of their backstories too.
Me too.
So that is essentially the end of the movie.
I think we're going to get a sequel.
I think,
or a prequel.
A prequel. I could smell a prequel.
I was going to say prequel.
I would love a sequel, but in a couple of years when they're older.
I think we're going to get a prequel, and I think it's going to give us the grabber story. I think we're going to learn about him.
If we get a prequel, I think it'd be cool to see what happened to the grabber to turn him into the grabber, and that the last scene of the prequel is that baseball game. Or you hear the baseball game in the background.
Ooh.
Yes. Well, hey, Blumhouse, call us. We wrote your story for you.
And
You're
this
welcome.
Is where, this is where we're going to go. How did we feel about it in general?
I loved it. I loved it.
You
Sorry.
loved it. Go, McCarthy. Tell us. All right, give us your how many masks out of 5 are you giving it?
I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 masks. I thought it was very, very well done. It's basically everyone who did Sinister, which I didn't even really like that much, by the way. I didn't really like Sinister. I thought Sinister was really overrated, and everyone's like, oh, Sinister was so much more scary. It's like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll go see this anyways. But I really enjoyed it. Ethan Hawke was hesitant to do this because he didn't want to play, he didn't want to be known to be a bad guy. But then he realized, I'm getting fucking old. I might as well go for it. And he killed it. Killed it. But he nailed it. He stepped out of his comfort zone. He did so well. He was really creepy. I think the kids honestly are the movie, obviously. They stole the show. It was just so good. It was so good. It was worth seeing. I can't wait to rent it, watch it on demand again. When it comes out on Paramount Plus, I will be watching it again, making Kyle watch it. 4.5 out of 5. Damn near perfect. I only didn't give it a perfect score because it needed more backstory.
Right. Luke, how do you feel about the black phone?
All right. Well, good luck. Look, I thought it was really well done. I thought that the characters were well rounded. You cared about the kids. You even cared about the ones that were already dead because you would sort of learn about who they were post-mortem. And I think that the climax was satisfying enough. It wasn't a perfect movie, no, not at all, but it was well done. And it was definitely, I would agree with Katie's score, a 4.5 out of 5.
Very good. Brookolatus, what about you?
I'm going to give it a 4. I thought it was really good, and it did I don't think it fucked with your head enough, and I thought that they could have gone a lot further with that and more backstory. But it was really well done. But I would like to MVP Gwen, because that kid is an 11 out of 10 in my opinion. She did so well, and I loved her character. And but no, solid 4 on it, I think.
Yeah, look, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on the 4. I know that in modern day we are very used to and sometimes critical of overly long movies. I think had this movie been maybe 15 minutes longer, 20 minutes longer, 25 minutes longer, and given us a little bit more backstory of the grabber, not necessarily spelt it out what's happened, but a little bit more scenage of him and his brother, a little bit more menacing beforehand, like as I said, like seeing the balloons elsewhere and getting the feeling that that fear is pervasive in the community. That would have done it for me. The thing I have to ask myself, and the thing that I'm going to ask you guys, is do you think this movie has suffered because it's a Blumhouse production? Because Blumhouse is now the place to go for mainstream horror. I feel like if someone like A24 got their hands on this property and gave it a little bit more depth, not saying that it wasn't deep, but gave it a little bit more grit.
I'm hearing you. They've mainstreamed it, and this is a very fragile subject about like a child killer. And I get it. Like, you know, you don't want to go too deep into that if you're a mainstream production company. You want bums in seats. You don't want to really explore that darkness. I guess that's what you're trying to say, Steve. So, yeah, I do think it's suffered in that sense.
I could have done a little with it, just a little bit more of it. Just, I feel like there's more story that could have made it cut a bit deeper. When you
definitely could have been a bit darker.
A bit dark, yeah. Just look, I know
just
that,
a touch.
Just a touch. It was creepy. It was creepy. At no point was I scared.
Here's the thing, though. Films from A24, they're very what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's not controversial. They're just you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
People like some people really, really, really love them. People like me. I loved Midsommar. I loved, you know, I loved The Witch. Like, I love films like that. I love moody, atmospheric films like that. I love films that make you feel uncomfortable. I love films that make you think. And I think if they got their hands on this, would they do something like that? Absolutely. Do I think it would have been as successful? Absolutely not. I think Blumhouse used to be, people would see that on there and go, oh, but now people are real excited to see his movies, and I'm not sure why. Because I think with his films, they're hit or miss. I think sometimes when he does them right, he does them really, really right. Like, he did this one really, really right. He did Master with Regina Hall. He did that really, really right.
Still haven't seen that yet.
He did it really, he did it really, really, really good. It was so good. But he's done some
for every one of those, you've got like your Truth or Dare. You've got like, you know, you've got
You've got Fantasy Island. You've got Truth or Dare. You've got some really terrible ones.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like Blumhouse need an offshoot of their mainstream horror. Like there's the chuck it in cinemas, get the teenagers to come and see it horror, but then there needs to be like horror for the people that are 25 and over.
I think I think Blumhouse and A24 need to like go on a date,
have a baby, have a bastard child.
Yeah, and they need to have like an offshoot and have some elevated horror for like the people like us who still want to have like the mainstream stuff. But like,
and this is the thing, what I don't need, and I know this is controversial, I don't need Jordan Peele movies. I don't.
Oh,
I
I'm
I
excited
don't
for
think
Nope.
he's a. I don't think they're good. I'm sorry.
I
think
think
that
it,
they have. I think they have potential to be good movies, but he needs someone else to write them
I
or,
think
or
they're
be in on
again.
them.
I think
I,
again, Jordan Peele's hit or miss.
I
But I'm
like.
excited about Nope.
I get why. What was it?
Get Out was amazing.
I get why Get Out. I get why Get Out got the reception it got. I didn't think it was as groundbreaking as people think. Us was like, oh.
Us wasn't that great.
And I just Nope. Even the title of Nope makes me go. Ugh.
I'm excited for Nope. I'm excited for Nope.
I don't know. I feel like do you know who I feel like he's M. Night Shyamalan for the new generation.
That's pretty rude because that's how I feel about Jason. Sorry.
But see, did you see The Visit for M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Visit?
Yeah, and I thought it was terrible.
I thought it was great. Oh,
I thought it was bad. And you know what else I thought was bad by him? I thought Old was bad.
I didn't see Old.
It was bad.
I don't need what your body. You wake up every day, you get older. Older by the hour, and your body betrays you. Welcome to being over 35.
Pretty much.
It's like our every day.
It was bad.
Everyday moment.
It was bad. You know, I think everything after The Happening was pretty bad.
But look,
So-
it was interesting to talk about a new movie today.
It was
Because
fun.
we are getting ever so close to it in person. All of us experiencing it at the same time.
This is literally the only
Review /
appealing thing
watching.
about the whole thing to me.
Halloween,
Is that I get to be with you in person.
Halloween ends. The trailer has dropped, and I must commend them. They have not shit the bed on it. It is only 1:17. It does not show a lot of the story. I think there is a lot. I think there is a lot
Okay.
that we haven't seen yet, and we'll be quite surprised.
Okay.
You know, Halloween is creeping closer, creeping, and that might be a hint as to where we're headed next, because another trailer has dropped. Now, this franchise, let's say, is a little bit controversial within the group, and we have been onning and offing and umming and ahhing and da-da-da-da-daring about it. But
everyone guess who's upset about it.
I think we should do it because, it's a very interesting conversation about art and the artist. So our next review, folks, we will be beginning. We'll be taking a little road trip, you know, from college back home, and we're going to be looking out. We're going to be looking out for that creepy little truck with the "Be Eating You" number plate. We will be beginning our Jeepers Creepers review series. Now,
And maybe
we will have some special guests joining us as well for these episodes. So keep an eye out, keep an ear out, you know. Eyes, ears, mouths, hearts, whatever the creeper wants, really, the creeper gets. So thank you for joining us. We will be looking forward with our eyes, hopefully in our own heads.
maybe our belly buttons and some rose tattoos.
You know, with our little rose tattoos around it. Thank you for joining us today on Uncensored Horror. We will be creeping. We will be
creeping.
We'll be creeping on you. We'll be eating you soon. Until then, keep it creepy. Quite literally. Make sure you start watching Jeepers Creepers. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's that, you fucking fart knockers. I'm hanging up my